for everybody else, it's just, this is like, it might as well be a physical wall. Like, we can't cross it. But for you and your tribe, it's like basically walking across your own yard to go see your family.
Yeah. It's a tribal ID.
Absolutely, there you go, sir.
Cool.
This is the U.S.-Mexico border. And Warren is about to cross over. And now he's in Mexico.
Yeah. That's it.
How is it over there?
It's the same. Yeah, it's the same. I go back home and tell my mom that I spent like a couple of seconds in Mexico today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're on your grandma's side now.
Yeah.
And now Warren's coming back into America.
Yeah.
Straddling the border between Arizona and Mexico lies the Tohono O'odham Reservation. The tribe has lived here for centuries, even after the U.S. purchase of Mexican land split their ancestral home. And today, the tribe's 30,000 members retain the right to freely go back and forth into Mexico with only their tribal ID. The tribe also owns these 62 miles of border, where the federal government will soon erect 10 integrated fixed towers as part of a $145 million border surveillance technology plan to watch for undocumented migrants and traffickers.
We started to see changes when I was about 8 years old.
What kind of changes?
A lot of smuggling and just a lot more migrants coming through. Like my grandparents would tell stories of like people who are coming through, and yeah, they would stop and they would rest. Sometimes they would work, you know, before they continued on. So that wasn't anything new, but this is different. Like
It was more.
Different. Yeah, it was different, and that's when we start to see, like, I guess, more violence. We're a continuous people. So like our lands continue just right on the other side of the border.
Right.
And there's still communities there. It's still a living community, even though we've been divided by the border for so long.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think this is a border patrol van coming up
Yeah.
right here on the right.
They're posted everywhere.
They're posted throughout the reds.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to see the way Border Patrol operates.
You think maybe they're watching you?
They are.
Nation.
That's communities are under surveillance. They're watching people.
The reservation has become a testing ground for new state-of-the-art surveillance technology, which is created by the same contractor that's militarized the Israel-Palestine border. There are concerns that this tech puts the privacy and civil liberties of Americans at risk.
These are sensor towers that are being built on the Tohono O'odham Nation's land. You would have some infrared sensors, some radar panels that are combing the land looking for vehicles. You know, there are going to be video surveillance cameras, but a lot of this stuff is going to be broadcasting to a border patrol station. May have face recognition, may have technology that is designed to identify people who are walking or identify animals or identify vehicles.
Then do you know what the purpose is for the federal government to collect all of this data?
So the federal government is obviously concerned about border security, people crossing the border illegally, but a lot of it is related to the transportation of drugs. And what we often see with these technologies is that they're ushered in under national security or homeland security excuses and reasons. But then they end up being used for much lower things. But then they end up being used to go after poor people.
Are there any laws that would safeguard citizens' privacy?
There's little. In the 1800s, it was the Wild West in terms of law enforcement and lawlessness. Now it tends to be a sort of Wild West when it comes to surveillance technology.
This March, the 12 districts of the Tohono O'odham Tribal Council voted to approve Homeland Security's plan to build the towers, with only one dissenting vote. But existing Border Patrol presence and growing surveillance has created tension and fear across the reservation, particularly among the younger generation. For Rayshawn, this fear was substantiated when he found a hidden camera near his house.
So this is where the camera was, right here. As you can see that there's some of the shrub.
They left all the zip ties.
Yeah, and
They're
they grabbed
littering.
that. I noticed a red light went off. And it started blinking.
And
Then,
That's never a good sign.
Yeah, and then so I got scared, and then just so I started to walk back home. Maybe 5 minutes later, I looked outside the window and I noticed a bunch of Border Patrol in a distance coming, and I was like, what's happening? Maybe 7 vehicles that came, and they rushed to that area where I saw the camera.
Right.
And then, so I freaked out because like, oh, that means that the Border Patrol put it there in the first place. And they were on foot, and they start walking around the area. I was like, they're looking for me.
Right.
And then after they left, maybe like 20 minutes later, I went back there and the camera was gone.
How does that make you feel?
It really makes me feel scared. I feel...
Because you grew up here, right?
Yeah, I grew up here my whole life, and like the feeling of being watched is really unsettling. Growing up, I played outside. You know, I would go to these hills around these area, and like that, I would run a lot too. And then now after that camera, I stopped doing these things. I stopped going outside.
How do you feel about the surveillance towers that are going to go up along the border here?
It's a hard topic to talk about.
Why is that?
Just because the places that are being proposed to be built on, those were sacred sites to us as all of them. We're already under surveillance 24/7.
Right.
You know, people walk by with guns, Border Patrol every day. Your privacy is basically invaded 24/7. And with these integrated fixed towers, that's even adding on to it.
And also, you are the ones who are going to be experiencing it the most because you're the younger ones.
We're going to be feeling the effects after this.
Right.
The wall is just going to be the first wave of something that's going to happen on for generations and generations.
The mistreatment of tribal members on their own land is a long-standing issue. Yet due to the proximity of the border, drug trafficking is an issue that the reservation is also trying to combat. Angel is a local ranger who patrols the San Xavier district. Do you know much about how bad the drug smuggling is on other parts of the res?
It's pretty bad because I heard there's drug houses and that hold off know the spots, and they have done drug busts there and found a lot of things. And then people do get involved with smuggling.
Right.
They smuggle them to Phoenix and they pay the tribal members money.
What is that white stuff? That's just a, that's not a piece of fence. Does it look familiar?
Yeah, looking at it closely. Okay, yeah. That's what I saw on the ground. That's broken up.
It's like, it's in a square. You see that left, right, top, bottom? Should we go there? Should we get out? So we think we found the site that Angel saw a month ago, like a giant white X that could be a drop-off point for whoever's flying over to smuggle stuff over the border. Oh yeah, like when you come closer, you can see there's anchor points in the middle as well, and then the square to hold the shape. Yeah, it's a pretty big site. Like you would be able to see it from the sky if it was like marked out. Are these common?
Yeah, there's
Drop-offs like this?
especially out there too. There's people dropping off spots out there.
Where's out there?
The main res, like in cells or towards the border.
So when you saw it, who did you call?
I think I called.
Did you call anyone?
I didn't call anyone that
Call
day. I was
anyone?
just kind of like looking at it.
While the issue of border security is critical, it's clear that militarizing communities can have negative effects. I requested an interview with Border Patrol, which they initially declined, but then agreed to a brief phone call. As an agent who's been on the ground often on the reservation, can you tell me how many apprehensions you make a day on those 75 miles of border?
So that's a great question. It depends. And one of the things I want to make very clear is that there is no number for deterrence. Meaning,
What does that mean?
Everybody gets very focused on analytics and stats and numbers, but nobody's going to speed by a police officer on the side of the highway. Just like nobody's going to cross into an area they know they're going to be caught, or they know that it might be difficult because Border Patrol has a good presence there. So the absence of value is a value to us. Deterrence is a huge thing.
Does that mean you don't make a lot of apprehensions on those in that area?
We make a vast amount of apprehensions on Tohono O'odham Nation. The Casa Grande station is routinely apprehending groups of 30, 40 people in remote mountain passes, and that's why.
Like per day, per week, per month?
Yeah, and I can give you numbers for Tucson sector. We can't break down the numbers per area.
Many residents say they have been stopped and asked for information feeling like they were suspected of being undocumented or illegal. And so I guess the concern is now that these towers are going up, that might increase. Is there anything being done with the tech or otherwise to mitigate that?
Well, technology is a tool. It lets us know when people are crossing the border illegally. So the Tohono O'odham Nation are our partners, the law enforcement, and the communities there conducting their lives, and we don't want to be intrusive in any way, shape, or form.
There's a love-hate relationship between our people and the Border Patrol.
Right, I could kind of sense that.
When they did come in initially, these Border Patrol agents just ran roughshod over the desert and destroyed the environment, and then there's sensitive cultural areas out there, and
like the sacred sites.
Yes, they're not aware of them, so we had to talk to their superiors and rein them back in and tell them, they've got to have a code of conduct while they're here to respect our lands and our people. Of course, in the beginning too, they couldn't differentiate between migrants and our O'odham people, and so they were harassing some of our own people, and that was really, really frustrating. And then the other problem was that the Border Patrol would change out their staff every 30 days.
Right, so it's like a different face.
Right, so you have to go through this whole process again.
We're a few hundred feet from the border, getting really close up to Mexico, and everywhere around here you see empty jugs of water, cans, things that people have left behind while they were crossing. Caroline, you live super close to this actual border, right? Like, would you say like walking distance? Yeah. How does that affect what you think about everything that's going on in terms of surveillance and security?
Right now, I do not see a lot of activity. When I was younger, I used to see it.
Like what kind of activity?
Illegals coming to like our door, but it definitely decreased, but probably they are going somewhere else.
Okay. So are you afraid though that your own people might end up being the ones being followed or watched by Border Patrol or the federal government?
That's a hard one, but my thought is this: we're already being surveillanced.
Right.
Our phones, our social media, all that stuff is already being surveillanced. So I don't know what more of a difference it's going to make. In this sense, it's also thinking if it's going to help protect the people, the place, then why not? And the other thing is the idea of a physical wall. This vehicle barrier was it wasn't here? It wasn't here until 2008. It was a middle ground to have security, but again to allow the animals and the water to continue to cross. Even then, the people said we weren't going to stand for a wall.
Right.
So again, this was a compromise that we agreed to.
So like in the same way, the surveillance towers were a compromise for an actual border wall here.
Yeah.
But is that real? Like, is that actually a genuine compromise, or can they still come forward after and try to build a wall even after the towers are up?
That they could. I guess they could. I guess in the name of border security, they can do it.
So after finally making to the actual border itself and talking to members of various districts here, the one thing that I'm noticing is that tribal members do not want an actual wall, and they don't want to interrupt the flow of life in the environment. And it's ultimately about how secure they feel on their land, which is also kind of how the rest of America feels about immigration. It's about, do you feel safe? Do you feel threatened by others? Or are you secure in who you are and letting others in?
There's a lot of Native or Indigenous people who would say the war with the U.S. never stopped.
Right.
It just changed. And this occupation is just the occupation of the 21st century.
What do you say to them if they want the towers there for their security?
I think that people need to be more informed about what the towers can actually do and not do. It's just there for surveillance. It's not going to necessarily stop anything. There's no entity on the nation, on or off the nation, that keeps Border Patrol accountable for their actions. As a sovereign, Indigenous community, O'odham community, I think that we're capable of more than we think we are.